Hello, my name is Michael Papp. I'm a rehabilitation engineer at the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the Rehabilitation Engineering and Assistive Technology program at ADRS, as well as accessing potential through assistive technology, which is a project we started in October. I've been a rehabilitation engineer for over 22 years now, and my expertise is in the application of assistive technology for individuals across their lifespan. A little bit about me: I have a master's degree in rehabilitation engineering. My undergraduate degree was in biomedical engineering, and before I got into working directly with people with disabilities, I worked for a company that manufactured and developed prosthetic devices. My contact information is up on the screen if you have any questions, and I'll put that up again at the end of this presentation. So a little bit about Rehab Engineering and Assistive Technology Services. Our program is committed to excellence in providing state-of-the-art engineering and technology services to consumers across the continuum of the department's divisions to facilitate the dignity and independence of individuals with disabilities in the community, at home, at school, and at work. We work with consumers to find or develop assistive devices that will reduce or remove barriers presented by disability to improve their quality of life. So our engineering staff work with a wide variety of disability types. Many of the consumers we work with might have multiple disabilities, but some examples include people with physical disabilities, learning disabilities, blindness and low vision, hearing impairments, developmental disabilities, and people with traumatic brain injuries. And so in our program, the services that we provide to people who are enrolled in one of our agency programs include evaluations for assistive technology and recommendations. We will set up technology once it's been purchased, and we will provide training on how to use that technology as needed. For individuals who have extra needs for something that might not be commercially available, we provide custom fabrication and design services. And we can also provide technical support for individuals who have active cases with the agency. So one of the questions I get asked is, what do you need to be doing to receive services from the Rehab Engineering program? As I'd mentioned before, we work with people who are enrolled in one of the divisions of ADRS. And ADRS has 4 different divisions: Early Intervention, Children's Rehabilitation Services, the Vocational Rehabilitation Program, and the State of Alabama Independent Living Service, which is also known as SAIL. So for someone to be in early intervention, that would be a child ages, birth until age 2 who has a developmental delay. Someone who is enrolled in early intervention could potentially receive services from our staff and could be referred. We work with a lot of people in the Children's Rehabilitation Program, and those are ages, that's from birth to age 21. And that program serves children with special health care needs. We do a lot of work with the Vocational Rehabilitation Program, which is for people, adults essentially, from age 16 on up. VRS is an employment program, and so individuals with disabilities who are interested in competitive integrated employment may enroll in vocational rehabilitation services and receive a wide variety of services from that program, including rehab engineering or assistive technology services. And then finally, the State of Alabama Independent Living Service helps Alabamians of all ages, age 0 on up, who have the most significant disabilities achieve their independent living needs. So a little bit about what we do when we go in to meet with someone to do an evaluation is that we're not just talking to someone on the phone typically and just recommending something based on what they're telling us. We will do an actual evaluation where we want to take a look at the various components of the system that involves the person. And that includes taking a look at the human aspect of what needs to happen, the activity or the task that they need to be able to perform, the technology, and specifically assistive technology that may be in place or that they might be able to utilize. And we also want to know a little bit about the environment in which that person is going to be working. So when we do an evaluation for an accommodation, whether it's a student in school or someone who needs a modification at home so that they can get in and out of the house or use the bathroom, or if it's someone who is looking for employment needs, we will take a look at the abilities necessary to perform the task that the individual would like to be able to do. So it may be as simple as trying to get in the front door from the parking lot, or it might be an individual who might be operating, say, a machine that stamps metal, roofing, for example, and that might require a variety of tasks or physical abilities, from loading the material into the machine onto operating buttons and levers and all that other stuff. So we'll take a look at what abilities are necessary to operate or to perform a task, and then we'll take a look at the abilities of the individual, and we compare their functional abilities and their limitations to the tasks that they need to be able to do. And what we're doing is we can identify what abilities you have to have, sensory, cognitive, and physical abilities to perform a task, and then we look at what the ability is of the person, and that little gap between those two is what we are trying to accommodate. And so when we can identify what that gap is, what they are not able to do that needs to be done to perform that task successfully, we will look for and hopefully be able to recommend accommodations, whether it's assistive technology or a change to the environment, or a change to the process to allow that person to be able to perform those tasks that they would like to be able to do. So the categories of assistive technology, some examples of the types of things that our rehab engineers and our assistive technology specialists work with, include augmentative communication, educational technologies, computer access, environmental controls, home modifications, job accommodations, and technologies for people with vision or hearing impairment. So a lot of our engineering staff participate in the Children's Rehabilitation Program's Augmentative Communication Clinic. We call it ACT Clinic. And the purpose of that clinic is to evaluate people for speech-generating devices or other types of communication aids to help people who have difficulty using their voice to communicate. And so we do work with a lot of people with developmental disabilities, autism, strokes, traumatic brain injuries, multiple sclerosis, and we've recently started working with people with the ALS Society who need advanced communication devices as well. And so there's a variety of different devices that are out there. We're always discovering new things. We just discovered a very cool program. It's an app for Apple devices called Voice It, which allows somebody who has dysarthria to talk and have their device understand, transcribe what they're saying, and then repeat it more clearly to somebody. And so that is actually currently state-of-the-art technology that we're taking a look at. We've been talking with the company, and hopefully we will have a training on that for the public within the next few months. But there's been a lot of updates and changes to speech-generating devices, or AugCom devices, as a lot of people will call them. There's new voices available that meet people's needs better, maybe match their age or their ethnicity a little bit better. There's also some technology called voice banking that we can use for people with degenerative conditions like ALS, that will allow them to record their current voice and then have that turned into a synthesized voice for their device. So educational technologies, we have a couple of staff who specialize in assistive technology for people who are going to school, whether they are in K through 12 or going to college or some sort of vocational training. Say like they would like to become a trucker or a welder, and they're in a voc tech school for that. So the types of technologies that we look at are a variety of different learning aids. A lot of them now are iPad and Android based. We work with a lot of students who have difficulty with note taking, and so we can look at different technologies like LiveScribe, Smart Pens, Notability, which is an app that will run on Android or on iOS. And there's other note-taking technology out there as well. Handwriting is frequently a problem for some of the people that we work with, and we can look at technologies to assist them with that. Could be something like voice recognition software for a computer, different types of adapted pens, weighted pens, etc. And then math is another area that we are always working with people on as well. The higher paying jobs tend to require someone to be able to do math, so that we are very interested in working with people who are interested in going into a technical job with technology to help them do math if they're having difficulty with that. I had mentioned computer access, and so we do work a lot with a variety of different keyboards, mice, trackballs, eye gaze systems, head trackers, foot mice, a wide variety of different methods for people to be able to access a computer, also voice recognition and eye gaze systems. This picture here is of a laptop computer that we had been working with a young woman who had I can't remember what her condition was, but she did have difficulty walking with motor control and with operating a standard computer mouse or a laptop computer keyboard or the little trackpad on it. So we did discover in working with her in the process of performing an evaluation that she needed a trackball, and she needed a trackball mounted next to her laptop in a very specific position so that she could reach it, and that laptop went with her to class, and so it needed to be mounted to her wheelchair on a tray. That this tray actually flips to the side when you close the laptop down. The other thing we had to do was develop, because she couldn't set up, she was not able to set the trackball up herself, and a lot of trackballs like this Kensington trackball, the ball mechanism that you roll actually will fall out of the device if the device is turned on its side. So we developed a little plastic mounting clip that would hold that ball into place without interfering with her ability to use the trackball. And so this was all mounted for her on her lap tray, and it could flip to the side when she went to class, and when she got to class or the library or wherever she was going, it could be unflipped, and then she could open up her computer and be able to use it. So that's an example of computer access and some custom modifications combining off-the-shelf technology with some rehab engineering workshop time to be able to help her do what she needed to be able to do. This is another example of combining off-the-shelf technology with some rehab engineering. This is an augmented communication device. It's an advanced computer system that has an eye gaze control in it, and the eye gaze systems need to be mounted and positioned very specifically compared to the user. This happened to be for a young child with a developmental disability who had not yet gotten a full-size wheelchair. I believe the child may have been 2 or 3 years old, and was still in a rehab style stroller where we needed to mount the communication device to that stroller. And so the commercial mounting systems are all designed for wheelchairs. Even a small child's wheelchair can accept the clamps for that, but there's no place on a folding stroller to mount that. And so in order for this communication device and the off-the-shelf mounting system to work for this kid, we had to adapt the stroller. We actually took it apart and did some stuff to it to be able to find a point to actually attach the bar that holds the device in the proper position for them to be able to use it. So again, this is another example of rehab engineering combining stuff we made in the workshop with off-the-shelf components so that we can meet the functional needs of an individual. Another example of computer access, we like to use iPads and Android type devices for people to be able to go to school, go to work, and also control their environment. And so we do a lot of work with environmental control systems. This is a custom system we had set up to work with an iPad. In the early days of iOS, you had to be able to press and hold the home button at the bottom of the device in order to talk to Siri, to activate Siri. And so we were working with a lot of people, whether they had cerebral palsy or a high-level quadriplegia, spinal cord injury, were unable to do that. And so we had developed a remote control system. We had found a commercially available remote that had a home button on it, and we had modified that remote to accept what we would call an ability switch. A lot of people would call it a jelly bean switch or a gumball switch, but we had modified that so that the switch could be attached to the person's headrest on their wheelchair, where they could move their head to the side, press the button, and then talk to Siri, and then activate whatever they wanted to do. They could send emails, they could send text messages, and they could certainly access their environmental control system through that. We do a lot of work with people who are seeking employment or having difficulty maintaining employment around ergonomics. And so that's a word a lot of people have heard, may not be very familiar with what it means. But ergonomics essentially is the process of designing and arranging a work environment using our understanding of interactions between people and the technology that they have to be able to use, applying principles of human anatomy, physiology, psychology, and engineering. And so when we are working, especially with someone who might have a back injury or musculoskeletal disorder like arthritis or carpal tunnel syndrome, we are looking at how to position things to meet their physiological needs so that they're not in pain or physically able to perform a task. And also ergonomics can help improve people's work efficiency and speed. And so we are often called in when someone is having difficulty producing, if they have a task where they have to, say, fold t-shirts, and they have to do so many per hour or every 5 minutes or so, and they're having difficulty doing it efficiently, we can come in and do an evaluation and apply ergonomic principles and see if we can help them improve their efficiency and ability to perform those job tasks. Custom desks and workstations. We do a lot of stuff with custom desks and workstations. The desk that is here in this picture is for a gentleman with C4 quadriplegia, and he was going to school, needed assistance with technology so he could attend school, Dragon Naturally Speaking, which is speech recognition software for the computer, and an adapted mouse, and a wide variety of other things, but because of the level of his injury, he used a mouse stick to perform a lot of tasks, which is a stick you hold in your mouth, and you can use it to flip pages in a book or push buttons or do whatever you would like. And so we had designed and built him a custom desk that actually matched his apartment that he was living in, and was high enough. It had to be very high. Most desks are only 30 inches high, and his had to be about 45 inches high for him to sit at. He also had to sit in a reclined position, so he was also laying back quite a bit. So a standard off-the-shelf desk, or off-the-shelf, a standard desk from a store really wasn't going to meet his needs. So we did help him with that. We do a lot of stuff with our independent living program, a lot of ramp designs, a lot of bathroom designs. And so We can go in when someone has a new injury or is moving to a new location and do an evaluation for a wheelchair ramp. We also go in after a lot of people have had a ramp built, and I have two examples here of bad ramps, and that's why they have little X's on them, where the ramp was too steep or it wasn't built properly and was falling over. And a lot of times we'll go in and take a look at what the problem is and redesign it for them and provide them with something that's better and safer, or help them at least have a design for that. And so we work very closely with our SAIL program, the Independent Living Program, where they send us referrals, and we'll go out, meet with an individual or their family or caregiver and talk about what their needs are, and be able to produce for them design drawings, and perhaps maybe even some virtual models where they can take a look at what a bathroom might look like once it was modified. We also help people with simpler things for independent living, like I mentioned, environmental control systems, which allow you to turn your lights on and off. Common issue we run into is for people with high-level disabilities who want to be at home all day, need a way to be able to get water and to make a phone call and do some simple things like that. And so we will help them create either find, purchase, modify, or create custom systems for them to be able to have access and meet their basic needs so they can safely be at home by themselves for a few hours. I had mentioned employment. One of our biggest customers is the Vocational Rehab program at ADRS, and so we do a lot of job accommodations for them. As a rehab engineer, I'm really excited about having to develop and build new things, or having to do things that haven't been done before. And so I've got a couple of cases I was going to show you about some more custom things that we had done. One of them I wanted to talk to you about was an adapted sewing machine. And so we had a gentleman who had a spinal cord injury. He had been working in an upholstery business before his injury, and he wanted to be able to return to doing that. But he was not going to be able to use his standard sewing machine. He couldn't use his feet, his knees, his legs to operate a commercial sewing machine. And so he needed he needed somebody to provide him with a sewing machine that didn't require any foot or knee controls. And so we got his sewing machine, took it to our shop, and we were able to make some custom levers. We removed the foot pedals. I know a lot of you might have a sewing machine at home and it has an electric foot pedal. This is a commercial one. It doesn't have an electric pedal on it where you can just move it wherever you want. It actually had a physical clutch system attached to it. So we actually had to kind of redesign how that clutch was activated, which is why we made some custom levers for it and had to attach it to the bottom. And so there was two controls that he needed to be able to operate. One was the what you would call the treadle, which controls the speed of the machine, and he also needed to be able to lift the foot. And so with a commercial sewing machine, it has a knee control that someone can press with their knee that will lift the foot so that you can move your part that you're working on without having to take your hands off of the piece that you're working. So there's two levers on here that allow him to be able to lift the foot and be able to move, to control the speed of the machine. So here's another custom thing. We had a gentleman who, with a developmental disability, who wanted to be able to take pictures. I believe he was in high school and he wanted to do pictures at football games and basketball games and whatnot, and so he didn't have fine motor control in his hands. He had some limited control of his hands, but he didn't have good fine motor control, and so we had actually developed a tripod system that would mount to his wheelchair, and we adapted all of the controls, all the little levers that are on it, so that he could actually operate it with a closed fist. And so this is an example combining, taking a commercially available product and then modifying it for the specific needs of a person with a disability, which is something that our rehab engineering program does. This is another example of an advanced system that was set up for a scientist who had been in an accident and had a spinal cord injury, was no longer able to use his microscope, or actually it's not, well, anyway, it was a microscope of sorts. And so this is a system that was adapted for him. We've found commercial parts that were available to do this, to use a digital camera and a joystick remote control system to move the slides around on the stage and all that other stuff. And so this allowed him to continue working, along with a lot of other accommodations that were provided for him. This is one of our rehab engineers in our workshop, and he is working on a device for one of our supported employment consumers. And the person needed to be able to pour granola into bags and seal it up. And due to dexterity issues the gentleman had, he was having a lot of difficulty doing that. They were supposed to measure the granola out into a container on a scale and then pick the container up and then put it into the bag, and he was not able to do that without spilling the granola. And so we were working out a way for him to be able to have a custom fitted funnel system that would hold the bag in place. And so our young engineer here is working on an early prototype, trying to figure out how to get it to work. And so this is something that we do. All of our engineers, I think, enjoy doing this sort of thing, trying to help someone come up with a solution for a problem that doesn't really have a commercially available solution for it. This is another product that was built for one of our supported employment consumers. He was rolling napkins in a local restaurant and was having difficulty separating the little paper bands that you put around the napkin after you roll it up to hold the silverware and everything in a bundle. And so this little dispenser here was developed for him, where the employer could load a whole stack of napkin bands into the box, and then all he had to do was push the lever down, and it would pull one band out at a time, because he didn't have the dexterity to separate them. They're all glued together. This is another interesting case we did for one of our supported employment clients. Let me see if I can get it to play. And so,
okay, there we go.
This was a for someone who had a job in supported employment where they were packing materials in a box for a vendor to ship out. And so the gentleman had been working with a job coach, and he was having a lot of difficulty using the standard tape gun because he had to hold the box, and the job coach wasn't sure what the issue was, but the tape was kind of going all over the place. It wasn't very straight. And so the job coach originally thought he was having difficulty gripping the tape gun. That really, when I went out to do an evaluation, that turned out not to be the case. The issue is that he had to move one hand holding the box in one direction and move the other hand holding the tape gun in another direction, and that was something that he didn't have the dexterity to be able to do. And so what we ended up doing was building this prototype of a tape gun table, essentially, that would accommodate him where he could set the box up against a fence, and he could use both of his hands to move the box through across the tape at the same time. So both of his hands were going in the same direction, and it would allow him to perfectly tape the box up every single time. He also had a vision impairment, and so with the dexterity issues and the vision impairment, it was making just doing it the way that the employer had been doing it difficult. So that was one of the issues that we had developed a custom solution for him. The other one is that he was having a lot of difficulty folding the packing slips. And so this is another example of a paper folding jig, a packing slip folding jig that we developed for him. And because he's low vision, we tried to mark very clearly where everything had to go. When he tried to fold a slip, it wasn't being folded very straight, and it wouldn't fit into the little envelope that it was supposed to fit into. So what this does is this jig attaches to the shipping table, and when you have a packing slip to go in there, you will insert the packing slip. There's directions written onto it exactly explaining how to insert the slip and which part needs to be folded first. And so this will demonstrate a very simple accommodation that we came up for somebody in the supported employment program. And so that allows him, that folds the slip up, and so when it comes out of the jig, it's very easy to fold it and have it be straight, and it would slide right into the little clear plastic envelope that it needed to go into. I think this may be the last example, but this is another handy little device. So we had someone who had to rubber band stacks of paperwork together with one hand. They had paralysis in one hand, and so if you've ever tried to rubber band something with just one hand, it's not the easiest thing. And so again, this is a very simple jig. After we went out, took a look at what was going on, met with the person, saw what they were supposed to be doing, we were able to come up with this very simple jig to help someone put a rubber band on a stack of paperwork with one hand. So, as I had mentioned before, how do you receive rehab engineering and assistive technology services? As I had mentioned, our program is part of the Alabama Department of Rehab Services, and so anybody who is enrolled in one of our programs could be referred by that program for rehab engineering and assistive technology services. So we offer a wide array of different things, and so we try to meet the needs of people who are enrolled within one of the agency programs. Typically, someone with a disability would be qualified at least for one of them. Either if they're not in children's rehab or the vocational rehab program, they probably would be eligible for sale on some level for the independent living program. And so the second thing I wanted to cover is a brand new project that we started called Accessing Potential through Assistive Technology. And so this project is part of the State Tech Act program. The Tech Act was passed in the early 90s to provide the states with and people with throughout the country in each state with training and access to information on assistive technology. And so this Accessing Potential through Assistive Technology is different from the Rehab Engineering program in that it does not provide direct services to people. It does not provide evaluations or one-on-one trainings for people, but it does provide people with access to information on assistive technology. So we just started this on October 1st, 2021, and we have been working away on trying to put together some of the different things that we would like to do. And so one of the first things we would like to do is we're supposed to be developing assistive technology trainings for the public. So that would be a training such as what I'm doing right now, talking with people about assistive technology services and devices that are available that might be helpful for people. Another part of the program, the training is specifically is instructional events for a specific purpose or audience that's designed to increase the participants' knowledge, skills, and competencies regarding assistive technology. And so these are group presentations. This is not one-on-one training. So people who need one-on-one training, say they need to learn how to use Dragon Naturally Speaking, would need to be enrolled in a vocational rehab or the SAIL program for us to be working with them and providing training. But this program can go out to a group and talk to people about different methods of computer access, which might include voice recognition, so that they're aware of what options are out there for assistive technology. Another thing is that we do have the ATAP, the APT-AT program, Accessing Potential Through Assistive Technology. Also maintains an assistive technology blog where updates on AT and some of our future trainings are going to be posted. You can go to STAR Training, that's STARTRAINING.org. And so we have been posting information about different pieces of technology on our blog, and we're looking forward to adding some real in-depth trainings on assistive technology services in the future. The second part of APT-AT is supposed to be device demonstrations, and so we are currently working on obtaining equipment to be able to do this, but the device demonstrations are meant to show people a variety of different assistive technology devices and services so that someone can actually get some hands-on, take a look at something and maybe compare a couple devices, and have somebody who is an expert in assistive technology guide them through trying a device, seeing what it does, seeing what it does not do, talking about the positive and negative attributes of a device, how it may help somebody and how it may not be helpful for somebody. And so the real purpose of the device demonstration part of our project is to help participants decide about whether or not assistive technology can help them and make a decision as to whether or not they want to purchase something or pursue funding to purchase something. The final part, and the part that I'm most excited about coming to Alabama, is a device lending library. And so this would be just like taking books out of your local library, except for assistive technology. And so this is supposed to be a short-term loan of assistive devices for individuals, employers, public agencies, and others seeking to meet the needs of people with disabilities. And so there's really 4 reasons why people would be allowed or be able to borrow a device. One is to assist them in decision making. So if they need a longer term trial for something, maybe they need to use it for 2 weeks to see if it's actually going to work for them, they can borrow it. A common issue that we run into is someone might have their Braille note, which is a specific device that people with vision impairment would use, might break, and they might need a loaner for a few weeks while they send theirs off for repair. And so this would provide a short-term loan for a couple of weeks or maybe a month for a device. We're also looking at being able to loan devices as short-term accommodation. And so we do work with a lot of people who do summer internships or might have a paid work experience where they might temporarily need a device, say like a video magnifier, which is called a CCTV, for someone with a vision impairment that would provide enlarged print. They might need something temporarily, and they could potentially access the device lending library for that. And then also for professional development. So for teachers, AT specialists, other professionals who might need some hands-on experience with a device so that they understand more about it, they could also potentially borrow something from the device lending library. So I'm really excited about this. We are working on it. My coworker who's in charge of this, her name is Ashley McElroy. She's really been putting a lot of work in over the past 5 months, trying to line up resources for the device lending library. We're trying to get some grants for it, funding, and we've had a couple of individuals donate some devices to the lending library right now. So we only have a handful of things, but they are all listed online. The website is Alabama is al.alabama at4all.com, I believe. I think I put it up here. I have it somewhere. I did want to give you a couple of social media links that we have. I'd mentioned how our rehab engineering program does work a lot with custom building stuff. We have been into 3D printing since 2015. I have posted several of my 3D printable designs on a website called Thingiverse. And so I do have a link up to some custom 3D printable assistive technologies. Most of what I have up there are a variety of stylus for use with iPads. So there's like ball-shaped stylus and long stylus mouth sticks, that kind of thing that can be 3D printed so that someone can use. I also have a lot of training stuff posted on a YouTube channel. And I have a link to that as well. So we have some other trainings, including some training on COVID-19 and disability, if anyone's interested in that. The APTAT program has a Facebook page, and that is, if you go to Facebook and look for Alabama APTAT, you can find that. We also have a LinkedIn site. And so if you go to Accessing Potential through Assistive Technology, if you search for that on LinkedIn, that'll come up. And I also have a quick link for that posted. Okay, and so there is the website. It's al.at4all.com. Yes. Okay, so if you have any questions, if you have questions about the Rehab Engineering and Assistive Technology program, I would be more than happy to answer those questions. You can contact me at michael.papp, that's P-A-P-P, at rehab.alabama.gov. You may also reach me at my office in Birmingham and leave a message, 205-290-4460. Our agency website is rehab.alabama.gov. Ashley McElroy, who is our Accessing Potential through Assistive Technology coordinator, she's coordinating the project and trying to get things off the ground. If you have questions for her or would like trainings for your individual groups, you can reach her at ashley.mcleroy@rehab.alabama.gov. Her number in Homewood as well is 205-290-4466. Her websites are www.startraining.org and al.at4all.com. And as I had mentioned with her, we are trying to get the device lending libraries off the ground. I don't think I mentioned it, but the current lending library is in Homewood. We are looking, hopefully, for partners to expand those libraries throughout the state. The Alabama AT for All not only will have stuff for our lending library, it also has free medical equipment such as wheelchairs and walkers that are available for people. So if you need a piece of durable medical equipment, bath chairs and things like that, you can go to that website and search through our DME recycling centers, and you can perhaps find something that you that would meet your needs as part of the STAR Tech Act project, which maintains those. If there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great and wonderful weekend.